the most successful employers I'm seeing have a really flexible setup that they can, make work for everybody.
Hello and welcome to the Community Network weekly update. I hope you're all safe and well. That's just a short snippet of the interview I've got coming up today with Joe James, where we talk about new year, new career, and happy new year. It's 2026. Would you believe it? 2025 was phenomenal. I think one of the big things that stood out to me, and I don't know if you saw any of my presentations early in the year, I was doing a bit of vibe coding. It was okay. It was coming up with some reasonable results. But what I noticed as the models got significantly better later on in the year was just the ability to create better code products so much faster. And I'll be honest, that's what my Christmas period was. I was just vibe coding out more and more features that gone into the solutions. I'm going to quickly show you these before we have the interview with James. So if you head over onto the Test Community Network website, as ever, you will see lots of fantastic resources. Let's hide that banner off there. So we've got the research sprint that's on the go at the moment. I'm going to put a bit more of an update out about that in terms of the AI authoring question content. I've also done a bit of a rejig just before Christmas period, so we've got almost this kind of Netflixy type look to it. We've got some great events coming up. We've got this past pre-release webinar. If you're in India, then you've obviously got the India conference going on for ATP. Flip Plus, just on the topic of item authoring, they've got a webinar coming up later on this week on that. I think it's on Friday. Comparative judgment webinar. We've got another one from Surpass, and we have oral assessments coming as well. And don't forget also is the ATP coffee chats as well to look out for. And lots of information. What I did as well is I gathered up a load of research from 2025 in relation to AI and assessment and assessment authoring, and put those in as well. So you'll be able to find those all dotted throughout the categories in there as well. And of course, if you head to the Beta Labs area, you can then check out the the apps that I've been building. So we've got the local marker, so the idea of being able to mark locally using a large language model locally on your device. There's a comparative judgment app that I've built, which works really, really well. It's incredible how adaptive that is. But what I've also added in there is the idea of being able to compare items that have been through an ANGOF process. So you can compare those in as well and check your kind of results, I suppose, with the SMEs. Item authoring in there as well. Interview app that I've created out. So if you are submitting towards some of the awards that are coming up, and there's BISA one, there's the EAA's one is available as well at the moment, and of course I've got the research sprint as well. And in the research sprint, there was some work that I did with the government's UK Ofqual's recent work there. So we've got the AI authoring one as well, and we've got the looking into the Ofqual research into on-screen assessment, and you can have a debate in there. So you've got a pros and cons option there. You can work your way through and see if you agree or disagree with some of those features. Anyway, on to my interview today with Joe. I'll go back to that view there. Here's me in conversation with Joe talking about just the opportunities that are ahead of you, how to get yourself prepared for looking for a new role, some little tips and tricks as well, and also just some ideas for organizations to think about how they're going to prepare themselves to recruit the best people. So here's me in conversation with Joe James. Great to see you. Happy New Year. You well?
Yeah. Hi, Tim. Yeah, I'm good. Happy New Year. It's lovely to chat.
Excellent. We're going to talk about, the big topic that everyone kind of starts off the new year, don't they, with, that kind of, I'm going to change jobs. I'm going to have so many changes in my life. This is the year for me and all those kind of things. And obviously you work in the recruitment space. Do you want to kind of just introduce yourself and introduce the work that you do? And then we'll talk about how people can kind of look for their future in 2026 in terms of jobs.
Yeah, you're really right there, Tim. It definitely is that time of year. Getting to us, and me. So I run a small recruitment organization called Cannon James with a business partner, Sam. We've worked together for a long time, and this is kind of the realization of a lot of hard work and thinking about where we want to spend our time recruiting. And we're here in the kind of space working with awarding organizations, membership organizations, kind of organizations that have some sort of education or examination function. And we work really closely with them to help them grow, expand their teams, find the right people that are going to not just hit a few boxes, but kind of understand what they really are trying to achieve for their members or for the learners that use their setup. So that's the team at the business that I run.
Excellent. It's an exciting time to be in, I suppose, as well, isn't it? And looking ahead to the kind of 2026, what kind of hiring trends do you see across the awarding sector space? What do you think is going to happen over this time?
I think it's hard to stake your claim to too firmly about exactly what's going to happen. I think broadly hiring in coming into this year, there's a bit of hope that things are kind of moving broadly for the whole sector in the right direction. There's going to be more hiring, but I'm cautious to kind of say it's going to be big wholesale change and a lot of hiring like we've had in the past. But it definitely seems like in terms of the hiring decisions that are being made and what they're looking for in new hires is more about people who are going to come along with not just skills, but skills and intention and desire to kind of grow the business they're working or the organization and what they're going to bring with them. So I think I'm cautious to be too optimistic, but I'm definitely more optimistic coming into 2026 than I was into 2025. I think there's a good chance for lots of organizations seem to be moving in the right direction. They want to change what they're doing in their kind of assessment functions. They've seen the promise of what AI can do and what potentially they can do for their learners. So they want to make sure they're in the right position, not to be caught too much anymore. They want to be leading the way, which is exciting. It's nice to be on the kind of bleeding edge of the technology rather than being caught out on it. So I'm optimistic.
Yeah, no, I think you're right to be. I think a lot of people. Hopefully, we all start the year off being optimistic, don't we? As we go through it, and if those candidates are looking for the kind of new year, new job, what are they telling you they're looking for in the roles that they want? What's the kind of feedback from the candidates you're seeing at the moment?
I think it's quite a big blended picture. I think people are really cautious about moving and taking a big risk without really weighing up things. So people are being more considered. They're being, more cautious about is what they're going into going to improve not just their situation financially, because recruiters do talk about finance as part of the nature of the beast. But I think they're really thinking about, does this take me in the right direction in terms of the organization I'm going to go to? Is the culture fit right for me? So it's not just about, is it work from home? It's going to be, how does hybrid work for them? How does that work for me? Is it a good situation for the whole picture? What investment are that organization making to look? Is it positive investment, i.e., are they trying to, improve the outcome? Are they trying to improve the technologies that they have so that the people who are working with them enjoy the experience? So it's not just we've done it this way forever. We want to continue to progress and kind of do that. And I think a lot of it now seems to be how well the JD speaks to actually not just this is the function, this is what it does, but actually what's our trajectory? What is this organization trying to achieve? Where are we going? And do you want to come along with us? So it's a lot more complex. It's really enjoyable for me because the conversations I'm having with people are, they're really, really focused on good stuff, detailed stuff. This is how it's going to kind of set me up for the future. So I think everyone comes into the new year with a lot of optimism and a lot of thought about, where am I heading, which is really, really nice to be in. And I love these conversations, especially kind of at the end of the year and into the beginning of the year. Everyone's had a nice bit of time, that kind of Christmas break, if you're lucky enough to have one. And you get some time to yourself. It's nice to kind of start thinking about those things. So lots of conversations. This is the time of the year to start thinking about it.
And you mentioned one interesting point there, the kind of the idea of remote hybrid and the kind of way people have been working. Is there more of a shift of organizations wanting staff more in the office, more day to day, or is there still a neat blend for that? How do you see that changing at the moment?
I think from my experience and from what I've seen, we've had the big whip back, as in we've seen people course correct and bring people into the office. And the organizations that are being the most successful are the ones that have kind of got right hybrid, i.e., this is why we're doing it. It's not just because we feel like it's the right thing to do. They can just, they understand it's about working really closely with stakeholders. It's working really closely with the people that you need to. It's breaking down. It's the shorthand of seeing someone and not dropping them a Teams or dropping them a Zoom message. It's, let's collaborate on those things. I think if you can justify to the person that you're hiring them or the rest of your team, this is why we do this, then it's having huge impact. It's not just, trudge into town or trudge into the office or wherever you're based just for the sake of showing face. It's actually, this is going to move the needle. This is going to make a really positive impact. And especially this time of year when we're heading back into the office, it's quite nice to kind of, actually see people in the light of day rather than being tucked away in your in your little office at home, which, you know, is sometimes not the case for everybody.
Yeah, I must admit, I do. There's parts of my role, because obviously I'm solely at home, and yeah, I do share the kind of office space with my wife. But I think I would struggle a little bit to make that transition back to a hybrid. There is a degree of, I would want to. I like the idea of travel and going into the office space, and yeah, I would like that kind of flexibility. But I wouldn't want to be, 5 days a week in an office anymore. Is that what people want now? Is there kind of, do some people want 5 days? I know for some sectors and some levels, it's extremely beneficial, isn't it, if someone is in the office permanently?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I think there's been more desire. I have a lot more conversation from candidates saying they want to be in some function in some way, depending on their role, right? Depending on if they're really project focused and they're kind of, their nature of their role means they're kind of helicopter in, helicopter out, and look at stuff at probably a bigger scale, then maybe they like being remote and that suits them really well. But I think there's a desire to kind of network and be in there and be with people from some. I think it's, there's no rule of thumb. And I think probably that comes all the way back to the best point, is that the most successful employers I'm seeing have a really flexible setup that they can, make work for everybody and have kind of guiding principles rather than something that's hard and fast. So I'm not going to be that person who says being in the office is the best thing ever, because it's not right for everybody. A lot of people enjoy that deep work at home, or that kind of ability to blend their kind of personal life around things. So I think we're just heading to sort of best practice is kind of making it worthwhile coming into the office.
Okay. And then in terms of the advice you give to someone, who's considering a career move, what, in terms of how they present themselves, because obviously, we've seen a huge surge in AI generated applications and information that goes in there. How can they, I suppose there is a risk, isn't there, that just by using AI, it is going to blend in, and there's going to be thousands of other people who are using the same, all going after the same job. How can they stand out? What kind of tips and tricks would you give to a candidate looking for that kind of new role?
Yeah, I think AI definitely has its place, right? And I think it certainly does help you to get some stuff rolling. I think the best probably way to use AI in terms of getting yourself ready for these sort of things is to kind of use it to bounce ideas off and help you kind of question the way you're formatting CVs. Does this look right? How would you change this? And, it doesn't have to be something that you stick to every time, right? You don't have to say, this is my hard rule, I'm going to use AI for every part of my CV, because sometimes the formatting's not right and sometimes it jumps a little bit to conclusion. So it's definitely a really helpful tool. It can really help you from changing something that you've done that you haven't quite added to your CV, or maybe an opportunity's landed in your lap and you want to pursue it, and this can get you there quicker than having to spend a few days writing your CV or completely tearing it up. I think there's a lot of people that are using their LinkedIn profiles to kind of feed that information from the LinkedIn profile into the CV, or vice versa. So a lot of the conversations I have with people are, they're making those first early steps. They want to think about, maybe they're looking for a job in 6 months' time, not tomorrow. They want to look at what's out there and be part of that conversation. So I'd encourage people to be really focusing on that networking piece. Who's in your adjacent organizations, who's in other parts of the industry that you can begin to build rapport with, show your presence online. Can you improve the quality of your LinkedIn profile so that it's relevant? Because a lot of recruiters like myself, we use recruiting platforms that scan for keywords on CVs, and the more that are on there that are appropriate and relevant, the more likely you are to appear in searches. So I'd say just spend some time looking at your LinkedIn. Does it reflect your CV? Does it have some of the core functions that you do day to day in there? Could I look at it and say, that's I could find that person, they look good for this role? Because that's what internal talent do as well. If they're looking to headhunt people, they will use the same tools that I do to review things. So I think it is a blend. I think having your CV ready to go is really important. Being able to tailor it to a particular job is really important as well, because cover letters are still as important as they were in the past, to kind of, particularly if you're applying for a specific role using a particular platform. So definitely, I'm not going to say AI is a bad thing. I think it's really important, but I'd temper it and use it specifically to kind of focus your application on a particular role or a particular part of the industry you want to get into.
So a couple of things I want to pick up on that. So in terms of the cover letter and the CV, which do you think has the most value, or which is the most important part of the recruitment process for the candidate? Which one stands out?
My personal opinion is always CV. I think cover letters are really useful. It depends how you're going to apply for a job and approach that job. You know, if you're working with a recruiter like myself, then we're likely to write cover notes. We're likely to share information with the client about what you do and how the conversation went when we discuss the job. So that's kind of acts a little bit like a cover letter. But I think the quality of your CV is going to definitely help you stand out. And the more you can talk about the kind of stakeholders you engage with and get in the specifics of your role, the more likely you are to open it up and have a good chance of pursuing that role. So I'm definitely on the CV camp when it comes to getting that right.
And in terms of the content that you put in that CV, then, is it kind of fact-based information? So qualification, or is there more? Do you think you should lean more to a narrative or story around that qualification, or the benefits, the outcomes, the kind of the applications of that qualification?
Yeah, I think there's a blend. I certainly would be putting in there some achievements. I think that really helps stay up and kind of keep people engaged on CVs, so they're not too shopping lists. I think they should be able to kind of review it and look at like what you've achieved in that time, the sort of people that you've been responsible for or processes you've been responsible for. So I think they are really, really important. I would focus just as much on those as I would about qualifications and experience.
After this, I'm going to send you my CV. You can have a quick look at that, because I don't think I've really changed how I've done my CV in many, many years, and I suppose that's going to be the same for some people. If and it's not the question. I've not applied for a job in a long time. I don't think my CV has been as important in the jobs and the activities that I've had, because I've not necessarily gone for recruitment roles or jobs that required recruitment. How have they evolved? You mentioned there are achievements. I don't think I've got kind of a section on achievements. I've got things that I maybe did, but are there things that stand out in that CV these days then? Aside from achievements. Yeah,
I do think it is. If you think of it that way, of like trying to avoid it being too much of a shopping list of this is what I did, and if I compared job A, B, or C or D, that they all look the same. Obviously, we want them to be readable and transferable, but I do think people are looking to see what it is that makes Tim tick. What is it that what do you like to do with your role? What helps you get out of bed? I think there is an element of that. I think people can go too heavy on that potentially, but I think a narrative to kind of maybe why you enjoy what you do is definitely helps people see that. So yeah, it's a kind of blend of both pieces of those technical skills and what you've achieved, who you've worked with, what you've managed, and where you think you've put yourself in terms of career.
And you mentioned also then about LinkedIn, about tying the two together. And I suspect a lot of people, they don't visit their LinkedIn profile until they're actually find themselves in a situation where they need a job. And I've seen quite recently a couple of marketing colleagues actually who suddenly found themselves in a position where they're looking for new roles, not through any fault of their own, but through changes in infrastructure and structure. How do you think it's best practice that people keep on top of their LinkedIn profile constantly as part of their journey, just in case that happens? And how frequently would you say that you'd suggest that they post to keep relevant, I suppose, and keep present and front of mind?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm going to be really biased, right? That's kind of my that's my bread and butter. I'm on LinkedIn a lot, probably too much, but it is a really helpful way for people to be seen by recruiters. Not, again, like I said, not just myself, but internal recruiters from organisations that are using it to do things. They'll often reference back and try and find you potentially on LinkedIn to kind of marry up your application from your CV to your profile. So it's certainly worthwhile. I wouldn't say it's massively important to be on there commenting, liking all the time, unless that is your part of your sector, marketing potentially. But I think what I would say to approach it like is it's another avenue, right? You're building that network, you're building credibility, and you're building kind of that reference point so that when you apply for something, or if an opportunity comes up, maybe they bypass someone like me, maybe they bypass a potential huge process because they see, oh, I saw Tim, he's credible. I know that he's in the space. So it does come with a little bit of work and a little bit of taking some time. But what you'll find in kind of as a result and as a reward is actually there's loads of great content out there from your peers, from them sharing what's going on. There's huge networking opportunities to see, potentially you're looking to invest in technology, or potentially looking to invest in hiring, or something that your organization are looking at yourselves. You've got some really good reference points to add value for not just your own career, but the rest of your team. So it's kind of, it all works in tandem. I think the more time you can kind of spend on there looking at things and getting relevant content, the better. So I'd exercise some caution. I connect with the right people, and I connect with people that are in your space. And then in terms of refreshing your own LinkedIn page, that's really helpful. I've run coaching classes with ex-colleagues and help them to look at their own profiles. Is it a good reflection of what you do day to day? Could someone find your achievements? Could someone look at you for the right job? And then in terms of commenting, it's great. Cheerleading other people in your industry is, really helpful. You'll build some great allies as well. So I definitely encourage you to do that.
And we've talked all about the kind of digital routes there. What about the kind of the traditional in-person activities? Do you still think there's a lot of value in kind of making friends, in person at conferences and those kind of events, activities?
Yeah, absolutely. And I had that kind of shudder because, sometimes even me as a recruiter, you have to push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit to go and to be in those in-person events. But for me, I always come away from massively inspired and full of energy when I've been at those sort of events. Tired usually because there's been a lot to digest and think about, but having met somebody and had that chance to get into the detail a little bit more rather than skimming through things is hugely helpful. So yeah, if you've got the opportunity to attend events, I would definitely be putting my hand up to see what comes up. A lot of the organizations that we both know and work with run their own conferences or run their own events where there's opportunities to network. So we're trying to do the same. We're trying to get networking events up and running ourselves and create those opportunities for people to kind of get to know each other better. So I definitely encourage people to attend those.
Yeah, I think it's good to get out, isn't it? Because otherwise you just risk that you're in that digital bubble. And as we've seen with all social media platforms, there's a risk that you don't meet other people because you just find yourself in a little enclosed bubble, isn't it? Just the network that you have. Excellent. Well, I really appreciate advice. Any kind of last tips, thoughts for people going out there in terms of what they should do? Any kind of kind of last brainwaves that you've got in terms of candidates?
Yeah, look, I would just say to people who are considering a change this year, consider it. There's nothing to stop you reviewing things and making a decision that might give you more conviction that you're doing the right thing where you are. You might be in the right opportunity, but without having a look at what's out there and reviewing things, you won't know. So have a look at your profile, review your CV, review what you've done, have a think about it. Could you, if someone like me approached you for a job today, would you be able to give a good review of yourself? Because that's often how they come around, right? You're not necessarily looking for a new role, but the right one can land right in your lap. So yeah, it's always a good thing to start the year with a little refresh and review.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Much appreciated. Lots of great advice and tips for people. And I'll include your details in the description for the show so people can connect with you. And thanks. And look forward to chatting with you in the future.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. Cheers. Take care.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Joe. Sorry. That was spot on. I think very timely. I wanted to make sure that people kind of start the new year off with some good ideas as to how they make those big changes that they've always been looking for. And it's a time, isn't it? It's a time really to really make a change and make a plan. And I spoke about it in my kind of one of my latter emails or messages. I think it was an article on LinkedIn just about the kind of literacy side of things as well. Yeah, if it's not you're going to make a career change, then just think about your career and your path within that career and the learning that you're going to take on board. And it's easy to say that we all want to stop learning, but we don't. We need to keep learning, especially at the moment right now. Right, we've got over the next few weeks some really great interviews coming up. So make sure you keep tuned. We've got some really good content coming up. I'm really quite excited about it. And we'll be back next week with more. But thank you and take care. Bye-bye.